Hey, salutes and good afternoon to everyone. 12 noon East Coast time. Carm Capriato. It is the Aftermarket Weekly Show, the fastest paced, most fun, interesting automotive aftermarket show. Doesn't exist anywhere in the world. You only get it right here. We have a guest host coming up, and also we have a virtual shop tour. And you are being broadcast live from the Dorman OE Fix studio. Glad to have you all here joining us today. We pay homage to Dorman and their beautiful studio that we have working together. With me is Brian Kelly, and Brian's been on the show before. Brian, nice to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you, Carm.
Oh man,
wonderful day.
You are going to talk about. Let me see. What's the agenda for today? We are going to talk about hiring practices. Brian. I know not in such a short time that Brian has to do shop to actually give homage to hiring practices, but we're going to spend a few moments, and then we actually decided that we would get together again and do a more full-length episode on hiring practices. So if you get teased by this, stay tuned for more. We're also going to do a shop tour, open the Fortune of the Week, and we're going to Brian's facility. We're actually going to do the tour there. I mean, last week we did the same thing. We did a tour. My guest host also had the tour at his place, and we're going to do the same thing here. Valley Automotive in Covington, Washington, and Emily Sundstrom is going to actually do that for us. Don't forget, the podcast is, Aftermarket Weekly is now a podcast, and we're publishing every weekly episode out there. So if you miss the live show, you don't see it on the video feed that we publish on aftermarketweekly.com. You can just go to your favorite podcast listening app, subscribe to it, and not miss any great wisdom from my guest host, and actually hear the tour through audio. And you know what? I've gone back and listened to a bunch of them, and they're actually not bad. You can learn a lot from that, listening to the tour in audio. Hey, today's trivia is which model of was one of Oldsmobile's most successful? This is really cool because my wife owned one of those cars. I'm not sure you may know the answer, Brian, but don't tell me if you think you know. Check in with your city, give us a like and or a comment. Mike Dela Cruz is with us. Mark Goldsmith is with us. Give us a share. Appreciate any questions you may have for Brian or anything you want to see about the shop tour later. So glad to have you all hanging out with us. The latest episodes that are going on, how to implement your own apprentice program. Guys, let me tell you something right now. I'm going to be on my soapbox in 2021, and I'm going to talk a lot about, I'm sorry. I apologize. I jumped ahead, everyone. Let's go back one step. As much as I know what I'm doing, Brian, it seems like I don't. I want to encourage you all to go back and listen to the Town Hall Academy 191 when my guest host, Brian Kelly, was on with Seth Thorson and Bill Haas, and we talked about incentive plans. Let me tell you, a ton of great information. Brian, you actually were on fire in that episode. I appreciate all your great wisdom for that one, but that was highly listened to. And when people are struggling, he says, hey, I need a wage plan. I need some ideas for an incentive plan. More than you'll ever possibly need, the information that came out of that episode. Thanks for doing that with us.
Oh, absolutely. Always anytime we can talk about employees. I
know. Honestly, you love to talk about people. This week, here's my soapbox thing. I'm on my soapbox this year to tell everyone, listen, let's stop talking about the shortage and the qualified techs. Brian, implement your own apprentice program. I mean, besides Napa having one national one out there, Mike Davidson came on this show and he talked all about his that's been in play for 10 years now, 5 to be exact, but he's been working on it for 10 years. And this is a how-to episode. It's a long one. The slides that Michael had with him is available on the show notes page. You can download them. And here's exactly what happened. My great independent group here from Buffalo, New York, I actually brought these guys in. We did a Zoom meeting, and and I want my Buffalo group that I'm a part of with them to go to the next level and find, do apprenticing. And so Mike and Pete and Jake came on. And so I'm sorry I'm kind of hammering this so hard, but I'm telling you, every shop in North America needs to implement an apprentice program and start these young students into a great journeyman's program. Also this week, Women in Auto Care 2020 award winners Danielle Sonnefeld, Kim Auernheimer, and Lauren Boyer what we're on, and we had a blast. I usually do this live at Apex, but we ended up doing it virtually. A lot of fun stuff in there. Okay, now, hey, I want to again thank Dorman for being our sponsor with us, and let's learn a little bit about Dorman. Hey, Dorman gives people greater freedom to fix vehicles by constantly developing new repair solutions that put owners and technicians first. Now, by always innovating, Dorman has led the way in growing the aftermarket. Now, here you'll see a few examples of a Dorman OE fix. An OE fix is a Dorman repair solution you can't get from the original equipment manufacturer, and it means they found a situation where they believe the OEM wasn't giving repair professionals what they wanted, so we fixed it. Everything Dorman does is centered around providing customer value, both in the quality of products and the creativity of solutions. Our engineers and designers, well, they go out of their way to save repair technicians time and save vehicle owners money. Hey, you want to really go under the hood? Take the Dorman virtual tour on the web at dormanproducts.com/tour. All right. Hey, check out Dorman. You ready, Brian?
Oh, I'm definitely ready.
All right, buddy. Hey, let's jump in this hiring thing. I know it's one of the most important things anyone can do in a company.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And a lot of, as I thought about this today and leading up, I thought, gosh, where did some of this start? And for me, this goes back, over a decade, but it started with a conversation with my dentist, if you can believe that. And a dentist who was really having trouble hiring the right people for her business. And, her and I began to talk about it. And I realized that in my automotive shop, we did things much differently than she did in her professional business. And as we began to talk more, I realized that, hiring that wrong employee, what that really costs your business. And the more I dove into it, and experience would tell you, when you take the warm body off the street, you never know what you're going to get, and you might as well grab the dice, roll it out and say, is it a pair of sixes or did I get a 3 and a 2? And where is that going to go? And, so often when we hire people, we roll the dice. And my objective really was to stop that from happening. And I sat down and, did my research.
But Brian, we roll the dice, and is it because we're just too quick to hire or we don't do enough research?
I think most people that I talk to, they roll the dice because they feel like a warm body is better than nobody.
Got it.
And I think that's in automotive and in business in general, if that's the mistake that's made. And I wish I could say this was just our industry, but from spending my time in our chambers of commerce, spending my time talking to small business owners all over, I think this is something that is just a small business problem, and maybe even a large business problem, that we believe somebody is always better than nobody. And until we can break that paradigm and that thought pattern, we're always going to grab who we can, and we're going to roll the dice with them. And that was my big push, was to stop that. And and I'll go into a little bit of what we did, but the big things I always think about is, inside your business, what is more important than the people who service your customers? And by servicing your customers, I mean the people who walk in your front door, and I also mean the employees that already work in that business, because really anybody you hire is servicing the internal customer and the external customer. So you have to ask the first question: is this person people smart in the way that they can deal with internal customers and external customers. Even if they're never going to see an external customer, the person who pays them or pays the business, you have to assume at some point there could be interaction. So to me, that people smart is it's an incredible quality. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about those qualities, but so to me, it really came down to what was more important than my employees. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's any asset the business holds that is more important than the employees, because at the end of the day, they do it all. So early on, I looked at and I said, okay, well, what needs to be in this policy? And the very first thing that popped into my head was everybody who walks through that door, just as when a external customer walks in to buy something from you, not every customer is an ideal customer for your business.
Right.
And just because somebody walks through that door and has a great resume, that doesn't make them an ideal employee for your business either. And so it became important to me to figure out how do I separate that, and where do I go with it? And I'm going to pay some credit here and give a shout to a book called The Ideal Team Player. And when I think about what opened my eyes and really caused me to develop a process, it was reading that book. And inside that book, they gave 3 what I would call empirical data points. You can just snap, and they're right there in front of you. And the 3 data points they gave you was humble, hungry, and smart. And smart meaning people smart. So the big challenge when you bring somebody in is, how do I label what I want? And I point everybody to this book because it labels them. Those may not be the perfect labels for you, albeit the minute I read them, the minute I understood them, they were the perfect labels for me. And that became the first data point in hiring. Name the areas that you're looking for. Name what qualities you look for that person. And from there, really, it became how do I now do my due diligence to make sure those data points are what I want, and create a plan around that. So that was really where we went. And within our process, so much of what we did became, how do I create the right ad for that person? So now I know what I want. So let's tell them about our culture. And that became step 1. Create that intermediate, that way of them looking at you, and create the right bait. I'd love to go salmon fishing, love to go trout fishing. And if I'm going to go and try and hook a big fish, I have to know what bait to use. And it's the same thing when I go out and try and find somebody to work for me.
Great analogy.
If I don't use the right bait, I'm going to get a mud shark, and those really don't do me any good. So it became important.
I'm sorry, I love this. Humble, hungry, and smart. Now, I have not read that book, The Ideal Team Player. We will put it up on the books page on the website. Hungry, humble, and smart.
Yeah.
Those are 3 traits for a CEO, 3 traits for a service advisor, 3 traits for anyone you'd want to work with. Anyone you'd want to work with.
Yeah. And that's the point, is if they can't meet that base criteria, and I think the humility was one of the ones that really stood out to me. And when you talk about humble being one of your key components to be an employee, think of that prima donna that you work next to, who didn't have time to talk to you because he was too busy worried about himself. And how do you label that beforehand, and how do you ask the questions to find out if that's what you're going to hire? Because at the end of the day, I don't know about you, but I really don't like finding new employees. I don't like searching out to replace someone. I don't like adding people because it takes a lot of time. So for me, I want to bring the right person in and then keep them. And I want them to want to be there.
And then we've got to put that whole retention piece in, and they're coming into the right culture. But it's a huge topic. Nothing we could do justice in 7 or 8 minutes. But I think the biggest takeaway here is humble, hungry, and smart. And again, you talk about the challenge you have to find those qualities in any particular individual, and you say, how many do I have to go through to find all 3 in one?
Yeah, well, and there's And there's the key. And so often in the business world, I'll use automotive, us as the leader, we go in and we try and do it all. And
Right.
the face that we see from an employee as a leader is so much different than the face that the people who work for you see. And so in our process, we do multi-layered. So we bring you in, we do a right now we do a Zoom or a phone call.
Yeah.
We bring you in for a face-to-face still, even in COVID, we put a mask on, we bring you in for a face-to-face. Because I still got to see you, and I don't care if we are supposed to bump hands or not, I still got to shake your hand. Because if I can't shake your hand, I don't get the feeling that I need. We can use hand sanitizer afterward if we got to, but I got to shake your hand.
Yeah.
And then we finalize that with a working interview. And the face-to-face interview should include your employees. The working interview, I'm hands-on. Once we get to the working interview, I'm completely hands-on.
Absolutely.
And
totally agree. Hey, would you come back? I mean, let's do a one-on-one on remarkable results. We just carve out 20 minutes and dive deep into this process of yours. All right. Thank you so much. In fact, that's what's been going on lately. We bring on these little tiny, if you will, boutique topics, and I learned so much. The audience writes back and says, we need to know more. And so we just continue to rock the world of this great content library. Thank you. Hang in there. We're going to have a tour of your shop. And I want to tell everyone that every one of these episodes is archived. All the podcasts are on aftermarketweekly.com. All the videos are on aftermarketweekly.com. This afternoon, within 2 or 3 hours, the video will be repurposed in case you missed it. Of course, it's up on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and in a lot of places where you can actually watch it again. But if it's 3 or 4 weeks down the road and you say, hey, I want to go back and see that Brian Kelly thing, aftermarketweekly.com. Coming up this Friday in the Town Hall Academy, we're going to do a very interesting show, pre-scheduling appointments. Time has come. Let me get up on my soapbox also and say, I'm telling you, this is something we as an industry, we have to do. Greg Skolnick is doing it, been doing it for years. Craig Noel started Jan 1, and Bill Thompson's going to bring the data where the consumer says they are ready to a high degree to accept appointments. And the problem is, we're the problem in trying to make this thing work. So join us this Friday. Let's talk about it. And of course, every episode is up and archived on the website and on your favorite podcast listening app. Okay, we have a fortune, Brian. Would you like to find out what your fortune is for the week?
How can you go wrong?
I know, honest to God. It's free. It's no charge. Here it is. This whole thing broke away in my entire hand, but here it is. Impossible standards just make life difficult. Well, that could be true in certain cases. Impossible standards just make life difficult.
Well,
how cool is that?
If all you're focused on is great instead of just getting there, sometimes that's analysis paralysis in some ways.
All righty, let's move on. Okay, it is time for the tour. And I don't know about you, Brian, but I saw Emily in backstage here. There she's back. Hello, Emily.
I think
hey,
we're drowning out here in the rain. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Emily Sundstrom from Valley Automotive works with Brian. By the way, Emily was on her own podcast with me, episode Town Hall Academy 103. We talked about ways to turn price shoppers into customers. So she is a podcast alumni, veteran of the show, and I'm glad you're front and center giving us the tour. I'll let you take it away, my dear.
All right. Well, Emily, thank you. So I'm going to point out behind Emily, you see a couple of garbage cans there, and you'll notice that is our sanitation station for checking cars in at this point in time, because every car that comes in, we ozone and we spray down and we wipe down before the customer gets it and before we give it back to the customer. Welcome to 2021, 2020 COVID. That's what we've got. So with that, Em, why don't you turn it around and let's look at the yard. We'll start there and move on.
All right.
Okay. Well, you can see we're we're on a fairly busy street. We've got a, I guess in non-COVID times, we've got a lot of cars passing by this shop every day, which is a nice thing to see. Uh-oh, I think we may have lost, okay, here we go. So if you look out, we've got our main storage area. Yeah, you may want to just head inside. So we've got our main storage area out here. We've got a fence that we've had to put up. Again, I talk about the COVID times as they are. Unfortunately, crime's gone way up. Shop's been here 30 years, never had to have a fence. The last month we had to spend about $15,000 and put a fence up to protect the property. So it's just what's going on. So if you turn to your right, you're going to see we have our key drop area. We have taken a little different approach with this. We no longer, we've got the key boxes and the key drop. We've taken a little bit different approach with COVID. We don't let anyone in the lobby, and everything happens outside. We meet the customers out there sometimes, but most of the time we put your keys in a box and the paperwork at this point. You'll see there's a little button on the door so people know we're here. As you walk in, you can see this is our main entryway. There's Audrey. She's checking cars in right now. Fairly comfortable area. You can see, again, I hate to keep talking about COVID, but we've got the main sign for our shop behind the couch over there. And it's been 90 days that it's been sitting there because I can't get a company to come out and hang it.
It's amazing to think that.
It's just, it's mind blowing. But you can see comfortable area. We try to make it plush. Obviously, it's not of much use right now, but hopefully we're back to some normalcy here before 2021 is over. We've got two different work areas. One, you'll see right there, we're looking at Angie. She does a lot of our parts control. She does loaner car. She really takes care of a lot of the peripherals. And then we've got Emily and Audrey who work at these two stations here. You'll also notice there's really no separation. We don't have the plastic pieces up in front of them. It's because we don't have customers in here. So I guess we can kind of move on from there over to, here's my office when I'm on site. Just maybe a quick peek in there. Hopefully I've got everything picked up. That's I always joke and say I've got more monitors in there than we possibly need. So it gets it done. And as you make your way out here, simple customer bathroom, you can see the remains of a water fountain that we're in process of replacing, but we keep it clean, and that's the intent. This is the dirty area of the shop, as I would call it. You've got a secondary bathroom for the technicians, for the staff generally, and of course an area to wash your hands and clean up in between. So here's where the work happens. Here's where the production is. And I think Emily's going to take us over to, this is our base area right here. Everything we do is paperless within the shop. So you have to have kind of, as I would say, a main hub. It's kind of fogging out right there, but we have the prioritization screen up, and we've also got metrics. We use this particular spot in the shop to do our daily shop meeting. We talk about where we are for numbers, where we are for production. We talk about where each technician is in that goal set, and we really use this as a team building event on a daily basis. And everybody kind of has their own piece, whether it be safety, whether it be facilities, whether it be the actual management of what's going on. But everybody's responsible for something. And
hey, Brian, let me ask you a question. On those shelves that are below that counter, are they allocated to tech, to a bay, to a job?
The parts that are in these shelves are all return parts. So
Okay.
This would be, well, and I should preface that with, they're either just received or they're just going back. And
Okay.
that's all that, this is the delivery station. Once we go around the corner, let's try. I know we had some issues here before, but this is where the technician side of it happens. So each technician has their own space right in here.
Okay.
And that's where they pull their parts from.
Okay.
And Em, if you want to pan up maybe a little bit here, we can look at, this is our main parts storage area. Don't stock a lot, but we got to hold chemicals and antifreeze, some oils in here, but most of our oils are going to be in bulk, which I'll show you in a minute. We've got some batteries, obviously. Tool storage, that's kind of everything, bulbs and of course,
Yep.
wire rack.
Yeah.
Just the
Nice, clean,
normal stuff.
organized. It looks like you've got the bare minimum to keep production flowing in the shop.
Exactly. You know, you don't want to store more than you need. And here's our oil area.
Yeah.
I found it challenging to keep reels in every bay, and just because you've got too many options for oil. So what we did here is we instead of moving reels, we went to a gravity discharge. Again, kind of hard to tell from the picture, but one of my pet peeves is that area needs to be clean. And you can see that the jugs are there. You can see that all of the funnels have a place to sit, so you're not dripping oil all over the place. And you know, it's at the end of the day, that's the messiest place in your whole shop. So I did everything I could to make sure that it wasn't a mess any longer, and that we could have cleanliness.
Emily, we lost your picture. If you could either find a new spot inside or come in and then go out again. And here she comes back.
I love technology.
Yeah. Technology. We here we go. There you are. You're back.
Yeah, we knew that spot in the shop was going to be a challenge.
Yeah, either
I'm trying, guys. Sorry.
It's Wi-Fi or data. Today we
go.
tested this thing and we thought we had it knocked.
So that's, like I said, and we had a good shot of this, Em. So you can actually make your way on back to what we would call our heavy area of the shop, and this is where the real production, you know, the heavy line, be it engines, transmissions. Darren is my technician in the back here. He's the guy that's in charge of all of this. And you can see we've got exhaust venting equipment. Don't do a lot of that. Of course, we've got a project car there that needs to get finished and out of here. As she walks back, you're going to see our employee break room back here. We do a lot of barbecue here. You'll see a big green egg. I'm kind of a crazy man when it comes to barbecue. We've got a 10 by 20 tent to put outside. You've got your fridge. You've got your decent sink. You know, we really do try and spend time with food. Within this business, nobody goes hungry, and that's a big piece. So, you know, I think it builds a lot of teamwork again when you eat together, when you talk together, when you spend.
How big is the place, Brian?
Total square footage, a little under 8,000 square feet.
8,000, and how many bays, lifts?
Nine lifts. There's kind of a half base. You could say 9.5. I'd say you couldn't really put a lift in that final spot. And you'll notice as we're going by, every technician's toolbox has got 2 monitors, except for my heavy guy in the back. He's the only one who's got a single monitor. Darren.
Did we see that nerve center, that NORAD nerve center?
We're coming up. That's going to be the grand finale. You know,
okay.
And again, you can see same thing here. We've got everybody's well prepared, and that's the big thing. But you got to remember too, we have no paperwork in the shop. It's all electronic. So you've got to have a good means of communication. And Ian, here is our drivability diagnostics technician. And we do things maybe a little differently too. All of our guys kind of specialize in a specific area. Now you'll notice his area, he's got a screen pretty much for every task that he does. This is by no means our shop push. This is a him thing, but we're happy to support it, and it works for him. You know,
that's NORAD, and that's 6 fabulous screens. Wow.
Yeah, and the crazy part is he uses them all. So I really have to. I got to give him some credit there.
Looks to me. Looks great. Hey, any final words? This was great, Emily. Thank you so much for doing this tour. And wow, you were almost the Vanna White of the automotive industry here.
I don't know that I'd go that far, but
yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Is there anything I missed, Em, that you think you would point out that really stands out to you that maybe we do differently than everybody else that you see?
I think just in general, we try and keep everything, all the space usable space. We try and keep everything efficient, and sometimes we're not overly great at it, but most of the time we are, and everything has a place. And our we have a kid that comes in the afternoons and makes sure that everything is cleaned up, that everything is put where it's supposed to be, and making sure
Well,
everything has a
wonderful.
spot
Good, good,
is the
good, 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 good
biggest
stuff. Hey,
deal of
listen,
efficiency for us. So
thank you. Thank you. Let me just, why don't you flip your screen around, Emily? And there was a question that came in, Brian, from Mike Dela Cruz. I've seen many shop owners hiring folks who came from outside of the industry, example, retail stores, and have actually seen a lot of success. What's been your experience with that? And do you see that hiring strategy continuing to grow?
In honesty, I don't really care where you came from. I think with the exception of our really seasoned veteran technicians, everybody has come from outside of industry for me. And it comes back down to the person. You know, I'm hiring the person. We will train to the position. And so for me, yeah, I think we're crazy if we don't hire for the person, because at the end of the day, it's the person, not their skill set, that truly serves you. They will build the skill set over time. So I fully believe that you're going to take the people, you're going to take them from wherever they come, and you're going to look for good people. And that's the heartbeat of it all.
Well, thank you so much to Brian Kelly and Emily Sundstrom for this great tour. I want to give you an essential episode to listen to, everyone, about succession planning with an internal candidate, Bob Ward, Steve LaFleur, Dave Mendez. Unbelievable stories with these two guys and where they came from. And I'm getting ready to do an interview with a millennial who is buying an established business today, an internal candidate. We can't talk enough about this, and just please go out and listen to Town Hall Academy 190 if you're mentally prepared for getting yourself set up for your future, because I know I'm speaking to a lot of baby boomer owners out there that are wondering what's their next move. Hey, next week, John Manellis is going to join us from AutoCare Plus in New Hampshire, and our shop tour is going to be at Baggett Pro Auto from Jennifer and Mike Baggett. Hey, let's go back to the trivia, guys. Let me see if anyone may know the answer. Which model was one of Oldsmobile's most successful? Well, the answer is the Cutlass. The Cutlass was one of the most successful. Did you figure that out, Emily?
I was going to guess the 442. So
the Cutlass was one of the most successful models for the brand. The iconic car had 6 generations that were produced for about 30 years, making it a classic. Guys, when I met my wife, she had a Cutlass Supreme corduroy red interior, and under the hood was a 455 4-barrel. And to this day, my wife loves her speed in a car. So did that car ever go? And it was just a beautiful car.
So Carm, one last thing that came into my mind as I thought about this, one thing that we do a little bit differently in our shop that you may notice is we play to our employees' strengths. So you'll notice each work area is a little bit different because it's suited to what they do best and how they do best. And we try not to create a single mold for everybody that just puts you in a box. And I think that's a really important piece. So just something I wanted to add.
I noticed it was not cookie cutter for sure. And no doubt, man, talk about enjoying the work environment that you work in, because you allow them to do that. Well, Brian Kelly, Emily Sundstrom from Valley Automotive in Covington, Washington, thanks for being here. Appreciate you doing this great contribution to the automotive aftermarket and aftermarketweekly.com. We do it every Tuesday at noon live. Watch all the repurposed shows. And thank you all for your support and your loyalty to all the podcasts.